Hey there, Segudo golfers. Tom Segudo here, PGA member, founder of Segudo Golf. And big shout out to Collin Morikawa for his win yesterday. We're going to take a look at some things you could take away from his swing to improve your golf game. So he's not what I would typically say a stack and tilt style swing. He's got more of the traditional elements in his swing, the shifting of the weight, the lifting of the arms. But there's some pieces in here that we can take that are also part of the stack and tilt system you can use to improve your own game. So let's just look at a few little key points here in the beginning that I think are really interesting. If you look at his grip, for one, that's a very non-standard type of grip. The right hand is almost overlapping that left thumb, and his left thumb is sticking through the middle of his right hand. So it's a really odd looking grip. This just goes to show you that you don't need a perfect grip to play excellent golf. As long as the club is secure in your hands, you can play great golf. It's all about knowing where the club is in your hands, where's the club face during the swing, and there's no wobbling of the club face in the swing, so your grip's got to be secure to control the club face. Beautiful posture, nice relationship with his body tilted toward the ball, and he does have a little bit of weight preset on his back foot in the setup. I typically don't recommend that, especially for you amateur golfers out there, because if you set up with your weight back, you have a tendency to hit behind the ball. So like I said, a lot of traditional setup elements here, but what we're going to do is go to some of the keys that I think you can use to improve your own game. Let's move into the first part of the backswing. So takeaway. One of the big things I talked about recently was the importance of keeping the club out in front of your body in the takeaway. And the reason I tell you to do this is just so that you don't get the club sucked behind you too much. The concept of hands in, swing the hands in, does not mean roll the hands behind you. And that's a big thing I think needs to be emphasized with amateur players. It needs to be understood that when you take the club back, it traces up the shaft plane. And the shaft plane line is something like that. Now, excuse my hideous drawing ability, but it needs to travel up the shaft plane that is established at address. And the club will stay on that shaft plane as well. So the hands might be swinging inward here, but the club is staying out in front of the body. If the club gets rolled behind and goes anywhere underneath this line over here, we tend to see you lift your arms and chop over the top. It's a really common flaw out there today with amateur players, and it's one of those things that I'm fixing all the time is the rolling of the hands. Well, to get this takeaway position here, the nice blue, to get that, you don't roll your hands at all. You just take the club back with almost no hand action, no arm action whatsoever. It's just quiet turning of the chest to the right. Your arms are connected. Your hands are quiet. And the club will take that position every single time. It's rather effective. So it's a beautiful first start of the backswing. I think you can learn a lot from that. If you try and emulate the similar takeaway position like that, you're going to find crispier contact all day long. In fact, one of the keys for my swing, when I started really hitting it clean and crispy, was to make sure my takeaway, the first 3 feet of the backswing, my club was out in front of me and not drifting behind me. I was one of those guys who liked to get the club rolled behind me there, and that caused a lot of issues. I know, it's tough because we talk about swinging the hands in, but I never say roll the hands in. Never rolling the hands. You're taking the hands in, but the club is always out in front of the body. Really important to distinguish that. Let's move into the next part. This is a really important position I think we can all learn a lot from. And this is like the halfway back, three-quarter back position. The importance of this position is the angle of the shaft. Now, like I said, the takeaway, if you don't roll your hands, the club will travel up the shaft plane. Well, if you continue to not roll your hands, the club will continue on the proper plane, the proper path. And that just means your swing's going to be very consistent. If it traces up the proper path, the shaft plane like that, you're usually going to have a really good day of ball striking. It's when the club gets either too much under or too much above that line, we see some issues. So the key position here, halfway back, is noticing how vertical the shaft is. Vertical meaning it's almost perfectly straight up in the air. And this is accomplished by minimal hand action, by no rolling of the hands. This is a position that if you can keep the shaft vertical going back, it's easier to get on the proper path going down. And on the downswing, you want the club approaching shallower. So if you go vertical on the back, you go shallower on the down. What I'm not saying is lifting. We're not lifting to accomplish this, though some players do that. The key to getting this position is actually doing no hand action and taking the club back quietly with the turning of your chest, turning of your torso. If you do that and have no hand action, the shaft has to stay vertical. And the key vertical position here is where the shaft approaches through the middle of that bicep, the trail bicep. You should see the club intersecting the trail bicep halfway through your backswing. It's just a great benchmark. Go in a mirror, try it out. See if you can recreate this position. In fact, if you focus on recreating this position, you'll immediately see an increase in the quality of your ball striking. An immediate increase. Because if you can get to this position here, then that tells me that you had quiet hands in the takeaway, and then you also, with the vertical shaft, you got a better chance of approaching the ball without chopping at it, without that dreadful over-the-top chop move that's so annoying for you. So some great keys right here. Now, the most important one, aside from this one, which I really like, the vertical shaft halfway back, is the shoulders. I'm a big fan of this. You hear me talk about this all the time. And it's because this is one of the most important keys of the golf swing itself. The shoulder angle at the top of the backswing. The player maintains his body's relationship to the golf ball by turning the lead shoulder, that is his left shoulder here, down toward the ground. You'll notice how he starts in his setup with his body's angled toward the ball. And then he continues to keep that body's angle or inclination to the ball, because if he does that, all he has to do is really turn his chest and the club will trace all the proper positions without even thinking about it. And this is how you can have a one-thought golf swing. You don't have to think much, because if you keep your body's relationship to the ball, it really just happens. And here's the relationship. Try and draw it to the best of my ability. All right, so that's the spine's relationship to the ball. You'll see the shoulders turn 90 degrees to it. And that's something that we can all do to hit the ball better instantly. If you want to hit the ball well instantly right now, you should be turning your shoulder down, your front shoulder down. We talk about this in the Arnold Palmer tip, the greatest golf tip of all time, because if you do that tip, the club's got to trace all the proper positions on the way back. So you don't have to think about planes, you don't have to think about where the hands are going, where the arms are going. Now you just turn your chest. You turn the left shoulder down, point the left shoulder at the ball, feeling. So he's got a really substantial shoulder down. He's got a nice tilt toward the ball. For some of you, this might feel like you're bending over left and your left shoulder's going or your lead shoulder's going into the ground. It might feel like you're sending that shoulder straight down to the ground, but that's okay. Whatever feel you need to accomplish this. Because when you turn that shoulder down, you maintain the relationship to the ball wants to be your friend, the club wants to be the friends with the ball. They have a great time, and they hit and mash the ball in the club face. And when you turn your shoulder down like that, you turn your shoulders also in a circle. And that prevents Morikawa, in this instance, from shifting off of the ball. Even though he starts with his weight back, he doesn't shift a whole lot off of the ball because he's turning those shoulders in a circle. So it's still a rotational type of swing, even though he's got a little bit of the shifting. And at the top of the backswing, shoulders turned down, but also look at the arm. The arm is a little higher than I would recommend, but you should strive for a position that gets the arm lower, about in that blue line area. Now, why is that? Anytime the arm gets above the shoulder line, you generally have to compensate for that by dropping the club in the downswing, which he will do. And that's just an extra hand-eye coordination element, a little bit of extra work for you. I don't want you working so hard. The best way for you to not work so hard is to swing the club more around your body, lower and around. What I'm not saying is we're not rolling the hands here in the takeaway. You got to take the club hands in more so that the club and the lead arm is actually intersecting the middle of the right or trail bicep here. And if you can do that, you won't be lifting and chopping in your golf swing. You'll actually be hitting the ball much more directly, more powerfully. There you have it. 3 awesome golf swing positions we can learn from Collin Morikawa. And it will make you a much more consistent golfer if you can, in the takeaway, bring the club up the shaft plane. And that doesn't mean roll. Remember that. Not rolling the hands at all. Simply connect the upper arms to your chest. Keep the arms straight. And proceed to turn your chest or turn your lead shoulder down. And what happens is, without any hand action, the club will travel right up that shaft plane. You have a beautiful first start to the swing. You'll also be continuing to maintain your body's relationship to the ball. So you get into that half backswing position that I talked about with the vertical shaft. No rolling means the club stays on the proper path, stays out in front of you, stays a little bit vertical, at least halfway. And then to the top, you continue turning the shoulder down to maintain your body's relationship to the ball, which is one of the biggest keys, if not the biggest key, for consistent ball striking, turning the lead shoulder down. And those are just some great things we can take away from his swing and how you could improve your ball striking based on that. If you focus on turning the lead shoulder down, those other positions will happen. You'll find crispier contact more often. And if you can, in the process of this, turning the shoulder down, even swing those hands a little bit more around your body so that they intersect the right bicep here, you'll find more power, more consistency, and less reliance on your hand-eye coordination, which is the key to being really consistent and powerful. So just remember those 3 pointers for me. We're going to swing the hands in and the club out. Club's going to trace up the shaft plane, the first part. Then halfway back, the club shaft will be vertical, with nearly vertical through the right or trail bicep. And then at the top, the lead shoulder, you'll notice it continue to turn down toward the ground, maintaining your body's relationship with the golf ball for clean, crispy contact, crispier than KFC, all day long. So Segudo golfers, hope you're having a fantastic start to your week already. And I know if you use a couple of these Collin Morikawa swing keys, you can improve your golf game instantly and have more fun in making the most out of the game you love. And if you're looking for a way to play your best golf right now, check out my online golf school, segudo.golf, where I'll show you a simplified approach to learning the golf swing from foundation to finish, as well as include videos on pitching, putting, bunker play, and more as I continue to grow the golf school. I look forward to seeing you in class and helping you make the most out of the game you love. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.